All right, guys, I spoke to a gentleman the other day. I was heading out to the back of the range for a immersion, and this guy's hitting shanks. All right, shanks and blocks. He was really having a hard time. I went up to him. I said, "Excuse me, I hope you don't mind." I said, "But what are you working on right now?" And he said to me, "I'm trying to swing more inside out." All right, so this is a slicer. This is what he told me. I've always sliced the golf ball. I'm trying to come more from the inside. And I said to him, you have to stop immediately, okay? If you slice the golf ball, the worst thing you can do is try and swing inside out, because your club face is open to your path, right? So if your path is shifting to the right and your club face is wide open to that path, there's a very, very good chance that the hosel is going to meet the ball first, okay? It doesn't work. So the first thing you need to do is take care of your club face. I gave him a quick grip change. I got his lead hand, which was terribly weak, a little bit more on top of the golf club. This guy had nothing to lose. It was really, really bad. Within a couple swings, he was starting to recover the club face, which is so important. So the bottom line is this: what can we learn from that lesson? If you are a slicer, get your club face taken care of, number one, all right? Look at your grip. That is going to be incredibly important. Most of you are going to need to strengthen your lead hand, get it a little bit more in the fingers. I see this all the time, slicers. High trail shoulder, high right arm, internally rotated here. Weak right hand. See, weak means on top too much. And then we got the club face fanning, of course, wide open in the golf swing. Very challenging. From there, of course, you have to spin and exit left to slice it back into the fairway. So what we've got to do is get that trail hand on the golf club a little bit more underneath. Get your trail elbow pointing a little bit more, your trail hip. Externally rotate it before you place your hand on the golf club. Notice both V's here are pointing towards my trail shoulder. That has got to be first and foremost. The way you articulate your wrists is going to be absolutely predicated by the way you place your hands on the golf club. Weak palm grips make it very difficult to square that club face. What you need to understand here is, if you can get your club face a little bit more close to the path and change nothing else, you should start to hit balls that start left and go a little bit further left. You're going to hit what's called a pull draw, or maybe even it's a little bit of a pull hook. The good news with hitting a pull draw or a pull hook is it's going to give you permission to push your path further right. You're not afraid of missing right anymore, right? You're actually missing left. So it gives you permission to push your path to the right, all right? So when we go back, we've got a few checkpoints, okay? Trail hand is very, very important for right-handed golfers, in my opinion. I'm right-hand dominant. Some right-handed golfers are not right-hand dominant, but for me, being right-hand dominant, I like to actuate my trail wrist to control the club face. It works for me personally. I'm hoping it may work for you, okay? A lot of people, they talk about lead wrist flexion. It's a lot of lead wrist, lead wrist, lead wrist. I found that if I can get my trail hand a little bit more on top of the golf club halfway back, and a little bit more underneath the golf club at the top, my club face is in a squarer position, because I tend to get my club face a little too open, or I get the toe of the club pointing down a little too much, and then I have to work very, very hard to get that club caught up at the point of collision. Now, I managed to do it, okay, but I'm having to unpack it in a very, very short space of time, about a quarter of a second from here to the point of collision. Most of you slicers are back in here. The club's going around the corner too much. Notice the toe of the club's getting rolled away from the club face very early. From that position, if I had to hit it from there, look where the face is just before impact. It's pointing towards you. So what we need to understand is, if we take the trail wrist here, I'm going to pull my sleeve up. What we really want is, we want the trail wrist to hinge back towards the lower arm. What we're not doing is rolling the club away. We're kind of hinging it back on itself, all right? That allows you to leverage the golf club early, which I love, but it also keeps that club face in a pretty strong position. Let's go ahead and do that, show you what it looks like. So it's going to look something like that. I can feel the palm of my hand pointing a little bit more down. Notice the club face seems to be matching my spine a little bit differently than you're used to, right? All the way over here. That is an awesome position. So what I suggest is to start small, right? Start small. This is all about proprioception. That's your mind's ability to feel what your body's doing without using your eyes. It's one thing to use your eyes or a mirror, okay, which you may have to do initially. It's another thing to not use your eyes and have the club in the same position. You know as well as I do, you need to travel a mile to gain an inch, all right? So the exaggeration is very, very important. So you might want to use tees initially, but what if you just hit some little wedges feet pretty close together, a little bit of pressure forward, where all you focus on is that move away. All right, see that? So look at the toe of the golf club. It's tipping forward a little bit, isn't it? So I feel like my trail hand is hinging back on itself. The palm of my hand is pointing down, and the beauty of this is it's pulling my lead wrist, it's pulling it into a flatter position. That is what you slicers are lacking. I would say 80% of golfers somewhere in their golf swing are lacking, okay, a flatter lead wrist. All right, you've got too much extension or cupping in your lead wrist on the approach. You know, the back of your lead hand's pointing at the sky, it's super cuppy. You know, at impact, we're really cuppy here. You're adding loft, okay? It's very, very frustrating. So let's take care of that first position, halfway back, palm down, okay? Wrist hinging back on itself, and hit a couple. I'm gonna exaggerate that feel. That's a supported release, all right? I'm not rehinging the golf club there. It's like a little punch shot, right? Right in here, palm down, and then we come through, get both arms out in front of the golf ball here, okay? And just hit a couple little punchy wedge shots just to get you started. I'm gonna do that one more time. Check it with my eyes, all right? And then I'm hopefully gonna do the same thing with no eyes, without actually looking. That's the hard part. There we go. That is the start of something really, really good. Most of you are going wrong in this first move away, all right? And then you're having to recover later in your golf swing. Now, people say, what about at the top of the backswing? Well, ultimately what we need to understand is if we move our trail shoulder internally, which means we're going to let that trail elbow is going to fly away from us, it actually opens the club face. This move here, okay, we're pushing against the handle the wrong way, and it's getting my lead wrist into that cuppy position that we all want to try and avoid, okay? So what if I take my palm, my trail palm that was pointing down, and as I go to the top, take that same trail palm and point it at the sky. Really feel like I'm pointing it more at the sky. That's going to make sure my lead wrist is a little flatter at the top of the backswing. It's also going to place my trail elbow a little bit more under the golf club. Well, why is that so important? Well, think about it for a second. My trail elbow's under the golf club and I allow my arms to drop. I'm going to hit that slot pretty much every time. That slot that everybody talks about, where the shaft is resting on top of the forearm as it's being delivered, okay? It's not over the top. It's coming more from the inside. Look at that. That's what we're really looking for. So I'll do exactly the same thing, right? I may use my eyes initially, all right? So I'm going to use my eyes, then I'm not going to use my eyes. Now you're going to want to use tees for this, okay? I'm hitting it off the ground. I've been doing this a long time. Use tees, all right? Tee it up high. These are just training swings, just to get a feel for your club face with your trail hand, okay? So we're going to go through that first position, check it, go to the top, check it, all right? Really feel that palm, not pointing towards me, pointing more towards the sky. All right, let's go ahead and hit one. So we go through the first position, hinges back on itself, and then it goes to the top, and then we're going to go ahead and hit it. All right, now I'm swinging at a speed that I can feel. I'm not trying to swing inside out. What I'm doing here is very simply addressing my club face in my golf swing. That is incredibly important. I'm going to do the same thing here, and I'm going to start to actuate that trail hand as I hit the golf ball, right? Not going to be keeping it open. We're going to go ahead and close it. Now, watch this for a minute. This is important. Trail hand, palm down, not up. Palm down, palm up. As I start my downswing, I'm not going to start facing my palm. All right, if I start facing the palm, the club face is going to get open to the path. I see a lot of coaching talking about incredibly important that we go this way as we change direction. That is a club face opener. You have to be very careful with that, okay? If it works for you, I've never said don't work on something that works for you, all right? That's the most important thing with coaching to understand. These coaches are all excellent, okay? They've had success numerous different ways. The goal is to find what works for you. In my experience with my students, what I found incredibly helpful, if we can get it into a really good position at the top, it's not necessary really to start working on trying to lay the club down and open it as we change direction. what I like to do, and I just talk about this a lot on my channel, is I like to de-elevate the arms, allow the arms to drop, okay? The arms drop, which shallows the golf club, and as the arms are dropping, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this trail hand and we're gonna move it back towards the camera, all right? That's what we're looking to do. We're waving at the camera, but the arms have to drop first. We're not doing this early, all right? We don't need to be throwing the club out this way. Obviously, that's not what we're looking for. We've got to keep our back to the target, allow the arms to drop, and then we're going to start to get this trail palm moving back towards the camera, essentially preparing the club face a little bit earlier. Everyone's doing this very, very late is the problem. So driver, you may need to feel like you're doing this really around chest high is when we might need to feel this. Irons, for me, we're doing it a little bit more around waist high for most golfers that tend to drag the heel, okay? You might want to feel like you're doing it around waist high. But again, this arm de-elevation, I talk about it so much, is incredibly important. Most of you are used to sort of pinning and spinning your way back to more speed. If we can keep our back to the target, allow those arms to drop, oh boy, is that going to help you exit a little bit further to the right. Of course, your club face now is in a position, right, that allows you to do that. Nothing worse than trying to swing inside out with an open club face. Don't do that. If we simply take that trail palm that's pointing up, okay, and as we change direction, if I take that trail palm and I move it back towards the camera, as I change direction, you'll notice if I do that, when I go back to here again, you see it here, right here, it's very obvious. My palm is facing back down a little bit, okay? It's not facing up. So we're waving to the camera as we change direction. I'm doing all of this with my dominant hand. That's the beauty of working on using your trail wrist to actuate the club face if you're right hand dominant. So I would swing maybe right hand only. Put your lead hand in your pocket, go through these positions, palm down, palm up. Right now, as I drop my arms, my palm is going to feel like it's pointing towards the camera. That's adding a little twist, a little counterclockwise twist to the club face, all right? That is going to be the key, all right? Because once I get into this position, look at how I'm delivering the club, guys. I've got the palm down. Very, very easy at this point to get it from this position back to square when I make contact. If you're one of these golfers, as you change direction, that's taking the palm of your trail hand, and as you start your downswing, the palm is pointing up. You have very, very little time from here to get that club face square. Incredibly hard to do that, all right? So palm down, palm up, palm down. There's definitely a pattern here. This is kind of a framework. You can use wiffle balls. It doesn't really matter. Hit into a net, use tees, hit a wedge, okay? I get it. It's difficult to do initially, all right? Because we're trying to change an old pattern. We have to exaggerate these feels. But if you can start to get a feel for what your trail wrist is doing in your golf swing, it's going to have a massive effect to the position of your club face. Once you can actuate your wrist and change that positioning of your face, it's going to have a massive effect on what the golf ball is doing. What we want to do is exaggerate these feels. Maybe we hit a few with a hook, right? Palm down, palm up, give it a twist. All right, that ball's gone left. All right, too much of this. The advantage of doing too much of this is now, just like that gentleman I bumped into, you can start to shift that direction to the right. As a right-handed golfer, you've got permission to send your path out to the right. You swing further right, you got yourself a little draw. Club face first, that is rule number one. Hopefully, using your trail wrist to actuate the face. Understanding how the trail palm can be positioned in a way that influences the ball flight is going to be helpful for many, many of you, okay? If you think this can help, go ahead and share. If you have any comments, always get back to people. If this is your first time looking at the channel, welcome. I really appreciate the subscription. It helps the algorithm. Get after it, guys. Start slowly, off a tee with a short iron, and just kind of build things from there. It's not a race, all right? It's about trying to replace an old pattern with a new. It's going to take a little bit of time. Good luck to you. We'll talk to you next time.